You're listening to CJLO 1690 AM right here in Montreal on www.cjlo.com. Coming up, we have an interview with Chief Richard Curry of the Cockpit Country, a Compound Maroons, St. Elizabeth, Jamaica. Chief Curry, how are you this evening?
I'm good, Kamala. Thank you so much for having me. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I know you're busy, and my condolences for the passing of Melvin Curry. Um, Sending out love to your family. We just want to touch. Basically, I won't keep you long because I know that you're busy. So I'm
Thank
just
you so
gonna
much.
ask you what have been the challenges over the years for the Maroons.
Well, the Maroons, as you know, have a very illustrious history, dating back as far as the pre-Columbian period, where our ancestors, who were the indigenous people, lived on this land freely and you know came and went as they pleased. In the time of which the I would say oppression of colored people began with the Colombian period, where we had the Spanish who invaded the land and essentially exiled many of the blacks who were captured in Europe, who some of them were, uh, I would say in those terms at the time considered noblemen, meaning of a high status within society and political relations. So these were notable people of society, and they were black. These were free blacks who
Yes.
actually were recognized and were never enslaved. Many of them joined the native tribes here in the land as they were exiled, and over time, as the slave trade really took its form here in the Caribbean, there would have been many uprisings, rebellions, where many of the enslaved people that were taken here fled to the mountains, and many of the plantations were also attacked by the Maroons, and they freed a lot of enslaved peoples who ended up joining these communities, creating what we now know today as the Maroon settlements of Jamaica. The challenge that the Maroons have faced is one that stems deeply within identity, because when people say, who are the Maroons? And we say the Maroons are indigenous people, then there's a big question. What are you talking about?
Right.
You know, the bloodlines would have entangled in the times which the natives would have commingled with the other Negroes who were taken here, whether exiled or enslaved. The Maroon is a rich culture, a rich mixture and blend of people. So thereby the birth of the word kinda, which means one family.
Yes.
That was essentially recognizing the individuality of the people that made up the community, but together were recognized one family. So identity has been a problem for us, because within the treaty there are specific rights, and these rights considered inalienable, and many of these privileges were recognized by the British when they signed that treaty in 1738. And the Maroons were free people who lived on lands that were assigned and recognized in the treaty as lands belonging to the Maroons. What we're saying here is that the Maroons didn't fight to get land, they fight to maintain the lands that they already had occupied. They fought to maintain the freedom which they always had. These were never known to be enslaved people by the British. So the war that raged on for 83 years led to the submission of the British to Captain Cudjoe and his men in battle, and that's where the treaty was signed.
Right.
So since then, the Maroons really haven't been recognized in legislature, because the treaty was signed between the Maroons and the British. The British had since left the island and has put in place a responsible government to oversee the affairs of the crown and the estate of the crown. And the responsibility for maintaining the relationship, that contractual obligation with British and the Maroons, was then passed to the government of Jamaica. And since 1962, where the Order of Council was passed, the Maroons have not been acknowledged or recognized in the Constitution of Jamaica, and that left us with a big void, because then there's no acknowledgement of our lands and there's no acknowledgement of our identity, which by extension provides our rights, and it's a leeway for the understanding of how then two societies can cooperate and commingle as it exists in other territories across the world. This has not happened here in Jamaica, and I think that's the major challenge that we have today.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm a little long-winded, but you know.
Oh, that's okay. Then no problem. Can you tell us what's happening on the ground right now? Because I know there's environmental issues with mining in the cockpit, as well as a lawsuit that's coming up.
Right. So comes back again to the issue of the acknowledgement and recognition of the Maroon territory. It says in the treaty that the Maroon shall live free forever and shall enjoy and possess for themselves and posterity all lands situate and lying between Trelawney Town and the Cockpits, which is Cockpit Country,
Right.
to the amount of 1,500 acres bearing northwest from the said Trelawney Town. Now, for all Maroons out there, many might not have been privy to information that we've now come to have in hand, which outlines the territory in its I'd say explicit sense based on the wording of the treaty, which clearly depicts the estate that was recognized as the domicile territory, the eminent domain of the Maroons, meaning we do not go here, we do not interfere here. This is a recognized territory as per treaty, right? And that would have been Trelawney Town, which is a parcel of land, looking at it in the old maps, which encompassed parts of Trelawney, the parish, parts of St. James and St. Elizabeth, and it's essentially within the Cockpit Country, but on the northwestern side of the Cockpit Country. Now, the territory called Trelawney Town is a very large portion of Cockpit Country, as we know it today. Right now, when the treaty says lands situate and lying between Trelawney Town and the Cockpits, is speaking to the territory of Trelawney Town, and then the wider territory, the Cockpits, to the amount of 1,500 acres, bearing northwest from the said Trelawney Town. So that 1,500 acres is nowhere near Trelawney Town. It's bearing northwest from Trelawney Town.
Yeah.
As you and I know,
a
compound is southwest of Trelawney Town.
No, this is the part of the mountain, the front mountain, when we say the name, Ranarak.
So, there's a lot that people have not really
in the original days,
from the wording of the
and
treaty,
then this front mountain
and carried over
to the
time,
roadway,
and it has almost become
Miss Anna climb it and did a look good and chop off the name that in honor of
how
her.
it has been repeated, and we're trying to make good
so
of
the entire place
the information
for origin
and
was
the
known
knowledge
as
that's at
Ranarak.
hand.
Because it was part of that biblical city that was built by those people from way back when. So you can check out the book online as well, Maroon Book of Eulogies, and Children of Anarak, which is to come, will tell you more about this particular issue. Alright, so we're live in Anarak TV. Thank you and God bless you all. Please remember to like, subscribe and share. Big up all of the people them who on board, and all of the people who are on board, consider to subscribe. If you never do it,
so
please do it now.
In regards to the lawsuit, can you tell us a little bit about
over
that?
And out. Jagai, well, Emmanuel like King Selassie I Rastafari. Them no teach I about King Selassie guy, but them teach I about that white guy. Them no teach I nothing about Marcus, but them teach I about Columbus. And them I big him up, I call him from the album The Seer Still Tapping. Available on all major downloading platforms. Please remember to download your favorite Gangonza song. From the EP, Three Sides of a Kind, distributed by CD Run. You can stream it through Spotify, for YouTube. Remember, follow me on Twitter and on Facebook. Follow me, Jamaica Mongrel Dog Association.
I think the Maroon thing is a big thing.
Ja, Rastafari.
dealing, looking at things the way we've
the Anorak Mountain, formerly known as Anorak, is nestled in the hilly,
lack of a better
mountainous terrain of the capital country of Trelawney Town, St. James,
yes.
and the Tango River side.
It could have been totally
Tango
avoided
River, as you know, was formerly known as Black River Road.
We're looking at what is
Anorak
happening
Mountain
with Cockpit Country,
is like
with all the mining and the threat to the water resources.
vanguard,
which Cockpit Country
protects
provides 40%
people
of
from
the
so much
island's
things.
fresh water
Yes,
supply.
yes.
Storm
And it's the
shelter
largest
from the
untouched
hurricane.
natural forest remaining in the island. So there's a lot to preserve.
Right.
And then
So we are
what
just
we find is
letting
that
you have
there
a
are
look at
external interests
what we call the
that are
Anorak
actually taking
Mountain.
out the soil and
Quick look
floating
at
it
the
away
Anorak
on
Mountain,
barges, leaving
as we will
us
talk
with
a little about the
communities
history
that
of
are
Anorak
left to
from an
suffer
oral
with
point
the
of view,
pains
from an oral point of
of
view,
mining.
The aftermath of mining, yeah.
Without
presented
the
by
ears
Fabian
and
Stennett.
diplomacy, then
Remember to like, subscribe, and
there
share.
are very few
And
options.
remember to download my
of course,
album, The
the
Seer
most
Still Chopping,
logical one
available
is
on
having
CD-ROM,
our day in court to
or my
settle these
EP,
long-standing
Three Sides of a
issues,
Kind,
which ought to have
also
been
available
addressed
on
and
CD-ROM
need
and
to
all
be
the
addressed
major
because,
downloading
as I
platforms.
say,
You can stream from
it's
YouTube or
no
Spotify.
strange
Remember to check out my book, which is
news to the
online,
world that
particularly
Maroons
on
own
YouTube.
land,
It's called
and the
Maroon Book of
Maroons
Eulogy.
are first
Thank you.
peoples of Jamaica.
Please enjoy.
Yes.
And we should be recognized.
Welcome to
and
Anorak TV. This is Fabian Stennett. I'm live in Anorak. The rain all come down.
Last effort
So,
be recognized.
one time the whole of Anorak when you run Anorak.
For
As me tell about the biblical city that was created
Right.
by the people them who come over here from Ezekiel time. Long before you have
Is
done
there
Columbus,
anything else you'd
and
like
done
to add
Taino.
before
The
we
Siboney
finish
people,
the
when they're
interview?
alive and well, they were known as the Chocolate Jews, and most of you think
essentially,
RC and called cave. We're in the Cockpit Country, where the homes of these people. So we are looking for Mount Anorak. Now Miss Anna did make a prediction and she go look good. And she jump off of the rock there and then change the front part of Anorak to Anorak. You understand? In honor of Anna who dead and jump off of that the part of Iraq. No, the back part never did change. See it on us, so that is Anorak Mountain, the original Ranrak, which is the back part of Anorak. Alright, thanks.
Total deprivation of
So people, we in the
infrastructure and
Backland of Anorak. Cause people talk about Mount Anorak, you know.
Is huge,
but Mount Anorak is the front mountain.
Within legal realms,
you understand?
we're totally within law.
Cause when Anna did jump off
our
the
treaty,
front
which is
mountain,
still standing,
Right.
then she run the front mountain
and as
from
you know,
the entire place when you run Anorak,
current session
which is
going
a
on
series of
in
19
Geneva,
mountains.
Switzerland, with the United
Right?
Nations, which we have
Right?
an ambassador
Mr. Wright,
present.
cause it's ripe enough
It's
now.
been quite fulfilling
At the
for this
reaping season, you know,
moment
you ripe
that,
by
we've
ripe in
gotten to
time,
the
you know, the
stage
history
where,
ripe, so we have to make sure so we pick it and bring it to the
sitting in
people.
front of
So
other
see the back
member
mountain
states
there,
to present,
Anorak,
ourselves
and you have up there so
of
now,
course, help them
we are
understand,
new Anorak.
our challenges in today's world. So we're in a
Anorak
great
TV and we're live in Anorak
position,
Mountain.
and we're being
With
confident.
the keep up the
and
trail.
There are a lot of people that are really
Yeah, we're
looking
going to take him
forward
back,
to
cause we don't
a
want to see how
positive
which maroon they
outcome
keep the
from,
trail.
You know what, needless to say, has been overplayed
No, no, yourself, man.
for the year or so that has gone by.
Don't worry about your proper clothes.
All right. Thank you, Chief Curry, for this insightful
So the man are show me
interview.
party. Alright, they put the cut a pass through this so you can go access around this. So.
Yeah.
So when the people them come, you can go show them the vibe around this. So. We're not come down, people. Anorak TV. Look how the place pretty. Up there, so they want to dig up our mine out.
And if you
And not down here, so we put one road. That's for me here. Jackman Dora.
you'll see
Me not choose none. But me the road and Parampinta is the game.
to assist with the legal
Anorak Mountain, formerly known as Ranrak.
fees with the maroon case.
Okay.
And we invite anyone who can, make a contribution to help us preserve Cockpit Country, help us preserve our water systems, and help us to, preserve our natural ecology for the posterity, the born and the unborn. So thank you again, Kamala.
You're very welcome, Chief Curry. Thank you very much. You're tuned into
The
CJLO
Anorak Mountain,
1690
formerly
AM
known
right
as
here
Anorak,
in Montreal.
is
That
nestled
was the voice
in
of the
the
chief
hilly-
of a compound, Richard Curry, from the Cockpit Country, St.
The
Elizabeth,
Anorak Mountain,
Jamaica.